Hello, everybody, and welcome to Don't Be a Meathead. Mark Thomas here with Cara Zaller. And Cara, you have a topic today that's really fascinating. And honestly, it's one I haven't given a lot of thought to until we were just talking about it before this. And the topic is how your blood type affects all sorts of things in your life, like your diet, your exercise, and other things that we're going to talk about. So, briefly, tell us, give us a general introduction into why we should know what our blood type is, because I think most of us walk around not even
Yeah.
sure what our blood type is. And two, what you've learned, and I think you're kind of your own guinea pig to a certain extent, about how blood type affects things.
Yeah. So most people actually don't know their blood type, unless they've had to donate blood or give blood for some other reason. Most people, you know, like they might have been told when they were first born, as a kid or something, if it's come up, but it rarely comes up in like any kind of health, exam, for example. Like people get their blood drawn like every year, test their cholesterol or maybe their thyroid and all that, but nobody tests their blood type because one, it's based upon genetics, like you have a certain blood type, and unless you've gone through some major transfusion of some sort, your blood type is set the minute that you are like born.
Hmm.
So it's really something that you can't change it, at least on purpose. And so it sort of defines who you are in so many ways. So it's funny how the more I dug deep into this topic, I found out that your personality type is very tied to your blood type. So I don't know if you like can think of off the top of your hand, like your head, a type A personality person. Like what that person really, you know, like traits that they might have versus a type B. Do you have anyone like that you know of that of their blood type that you know in your life that is, oh, they're definitely type A as a trait?
My wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And so would you describe yourself more as the chill person?
It's interesting. For me, I would say it depends on the situation. And I know that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but there's some situations where I am pretty type A. I'm not very relaxed. I'm just really um, engaged. And then there's others where I kind of sit back a little bit more and watch. So, I don't know if I can give one answer.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, so, as I was delving into this topic, I used to always say like my dad's like an amazing sleeper. He's so chill. And my mom's like, sorry mom if you're listening, but like little neurotic and uptight. And I got all of her traits and
Hmm.
none of my dad's. And like, so I was like, well, what are your blood types? And my mom's a type A and my dad's a type B and
Hmm.
I'm a type A. And I was like, oh, wow.
Hmm.
I said,
Hmm.
are you
Makes
sure you
sense.
can't change your blood type? Because I was like really like, things that I'm all uptight about. That's exactly like I see that in my mom. I see that in myself. And my dad's just so chill, and he's type B and type A. So what comes with being a type A person is someone puts an undue amount of stress upon themselves, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Whether it's self-induced or not. Type A are people that are pretty driven, they're pretty social, but the more stress you have, the more you deplete your stomach acid. So what happens is that type A blood type is more susceptible to stomach ulcers and H. pylori, which is a bug that literally loves a non-acidic environment. So when we deplete our,
Newsflash, I
yeah.
just got diagnosed 2 weeks ago with H. pylori, so I'm on a
Oh,
program to get rid of it. Anyway, go ahead.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. And so the thing is that you might want to check your wife too because
Yeah,
it's
she's on it too. We
what?
kiss. We kiss, so
Right. It's communicable, right? It's
yeah.
just like, like what they call like Epstein-Barr, the kissing disease, right? Because
Hmm.
it's so transferable. So let's say you are a type B, she's type A, but she's got the H. pylori. She's going to give it well to you each time.
So it's her
Um,
fault.
yeah, exactly. This one, you can actually say it's your fault, honey. but yeah, so what happens when someone's so type A in their life, they need balance, right? We have yin and yang and balance. And if a type A person does, let's say, some yoga, gentle exercises, they're more gentle on their nervous system. Well, that helps down regulate some of the stress that they put upon themselves as a type A, right? So, because of this low stomach acid, type A don't break down animal protein very well because in
Hmm.
order for you to break down a piece of meat, your stomach has to be very, very acidic.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you'll see a lot of vegetarians who just don't even have a taste for meat. Why? Because they probably have such low stomach acid. It's a supply and demand. Your body's like, well, I can't break that down, so I'm not going to send out a message to desire for that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, but on the other hand, let's say someone who's a type A has a competitive part to them. I'm not sure who that could be. And although I do understand the benefits I get from yoga and meditation, there is a competitive bug that's inside of me that I cannot squash all the way down.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I end up paying the price for having the most anxiety leading up to any tournament or any far above and beyond my competitors because of me being a type A blood type, right?
Hmm.
It is just
Hmm.
more susceptible to being spilled over into this high anxious person that seems to be, which apparently is, someone out of my control. And
Hmm.
as people would say, well, life would be a lot easier if you just didn't play pickleball. But that's not really the way I want to live my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so I have to go through measures of making sure I have digestive enzymes breaking down that food, so that if I want that animal protein that I need for, strength training and playing, that I really make sure to go out of my way to take care of those things because I know based upon my blood type, I am not in a great place to break down this protein that I absolutely need to do the things I want to do.
So are we
So,
talking supplements or are we talking food choices? Which direction do you lean
so,
more?
so both. So for type A, they are mostly thrive on a vegetarian diet. I personally do not thrive on a vegetarian diet only because of my high activity level. So I include all meats and fish, but yet I will take supplements to help me digest those proteins. And I will take an essential amino acid powder, which is basically like an IV drip of, of amino acids to make sure because I know I'm not going to absorb the amino acids as well as someone else who's, let's say, type O. So
Hmm.
type O blood type is like the true paleo man,
Hmm.
like the paleo man that can live on meat and vegetables
Hmm.
and thrive,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that person, I've had plenty of clients that come in and they're eating lots of beans, nuts, and seeds and anything but meat. And they're having all these either gut issues or disease issues. And I said, well, what's your blood type? And
Hmm.
sure
Hmm.
enough, it's an O. I said, you are absolutely doing the complete opposite of what your blood type should be,
Right.
or according to that. So, so there is where I just, the curiosity got me to do these experiments where every time someone came in, I'd say, what's your blood type?
Right.
Because a type B blood type, let's say, is the one that's a real chill. Like I know of a couple people, they could literally sit on the couch and read a book all day long, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
so they're actually, because they're sedentary more, than not, they're actually subject to diabetes. Why?
Mm.
Because they're not out there lifting weights, and muscle is a glucose disposal agent. So the more muscle you have, the less diabetes you will be susceptible for.
Hmm.
But these people, like, they might be a little on the heavier set or they put on weight easily because they're also eating probably a much higher carb diet than what their activity level is.
Hmm.
So they can they can get in some trouble because they're too chill, right? So we have the extremes of A and B. Is like A is hard driven, but can drive themselves into the ground by overdoing it, versus B being so chill that they need to watch out more what they eat because they're not moving their bodies as much.
And I've actually, learned lately how important it is after you eat a meal to go walk for like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean movement. So I mean, and it's not. Yes, it is a great practice. What that does is really it just utilizes the blood sugar and puts it into the muscle cells faster.
Hmm.
However, if you eat a meal that's very blood sugar balancing, you don't have to go walk it off, you
Hmm.
know? I mean, it's
Hmm.
always nice to like, have some gentle movement. It's helpful for digestion. There's plenty of other reasons. In fact, all the other cultures that are almost free of disease had a ritual of eating and walking. It was
Hmm.
just part of it. We tend to have to go out of our way for things, but we also try to get away with, oh, well, I'm just going to have dessert and then I'll go walk, right? It's like, well, if you just ate a nice meal, that was that wasn't spiking your blood sugar, you don't really have to worry about going for a walk afterwards.
Hmm.
If you've exercised or you moved most of your day, then like the after meal thing won't really make much of a difference.
Hmm.
But for those that aren't doing any activity, certainly like they could benefit because a 10-minute walk 3 times after, each of your 3 meals can add up to a nice 30-minute walk. And
Hmm.
that's helpful for everybody.
Hmm. So, a couple of questions come to mind. One, because you sort of used yourself as your own guinea pig, right? And plus, you also have some clients. What type of like testing did you do on yourself in terms of like food choices, to see how things worked? And then two, in terms of genetics, you may have a parent who's one blood type, the other's the other blood type, right?
Right?
And we all know things with like eye color, hair color, whatever, there's dominant and recessive. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've dove that deep
Nope,
into it.
doesn't work that way. So in blood type, you are either one or the other. I just want to know what you have as a blood type and how we can work with your disease risk to offset that and just know that we need to go out of our way, to address these concerns that are potential. It's almost like, in your genes, some people, let's say, have a predisposition for a multitude of diseases. Does that mean they're going to get them guaranteed? No. Actually,
Hmm.
genes are 90%. I mean, genes are only 10% of the equation.
Hmm.
90% is in your full control over your diet, your lifestyle, and everything else that goes around.
Hmm.
So you have full control, just the same way as knowing your blood type. You know that, let's say, like I am more susceptible to stomach ulcers or stomach cancer or things like that. Then
Hmm.
I want to be sure that I'm either testing, making
Yeah.
sure I optimize my digestion and focusing on that to prevent something. And the more crazy competitions I do, the more mindfulness practices I need to instill to create some balance because I could easily be thrown overboard, which is definitely, often happens when I skip the yoga sessions like multiple times during the week or meditation or something like that. So
Hmm.
that's how you can get around. I mean, so just because you are one type A, and just because you're type B doesn't mean you're going to get diabetes. It just means that maybe you should do a little things that are outside of your, get a little bit more activity,
Hmm.
workout wise, things like that,
Hmm.
within your blood type so that you can thrive no matter
Hmm.
what blood type you are.
Hmm. So lastly, real quick, what type of stuff did you do to yourself to test how this all worked and what worked best for you?
Yeah, so I tried I tried almost a carnivore diet. I couldn't even last a day. So
Hmm.
carnivore is strictly meat and no vegetables whatsoever. I could not handle that. I also tried a vegetarian diet of which made me starving all day long. I never felt full.
Hmm.
So I did the two extremes of like, carnivore would be totally against my blood type, but yet vegetarian would be very aligned to my blood type. But because of the exercise I do, I couldn't handle it. Was just my body's demands
You needed
for
more.
protein was
Yeah.
so much more. So like if I was a true yogi and that's all I did, I would definitely be able to, you know, like exist on a vegetarian diet. But
Right.
because I'm a heavy bodybuilder, exercise, things like that, then I need to go out of my way because it's not in line with my blood type. So I need that protein. And that's really how you know, felt is that my blood sugar was all over the place with the type A blood type.
Hmm.
I was throwing it because, type A is basically all vegetarians are carbohydrates. There's just tons of carbs in that diet.
Right.
But I
Right.
moved more towards a Mediterranean diet
Okay.
versus, so I digest fish really well.
Mm.
And fish is okay for the protein for a type A, but red meat is not.
Okay.
And so the heavy proteins like meat, red meat, pork, things like that, I don't do as well as, I really thrive on a fish and vegetable diet.
Okay. Cool. Well, you wrote a lot more in your blog entry about this, right? Where people can read on don'tbeameathead.com.
Yeah, so obviously, I haven't memorized everything. That's why it's on there so they can literally download and read it, and they'll give them ideas of what disease risk they're at, what kind of exercise recommendations, what type of diet, foods to include, foods to avoid. Like type B, for some reason, they get very inflamed from eating chicken,
Mm.
right? So, and in fact, I had a client recently who was like, I don't know what it is. Whenever I eat chicken, I feel really sick, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What's your blood type?" So
Mm.
so
Interesting.
that's how these things were like, where some like, and now I'm like, wow, like things are just really lining up according to these things. So
Really,
yeah,
really interesting stuff, Kara. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to read your blog, and I think I could ask you a lot of questions on this. Really fascinating. So thank you
yeah,
very much.
you're welcome.